Alright, response video to Corey Anton, Professor Anton. Yeah, let's see if we can play this out a little bit further, or do something more constructive. I think I've been giving you fair arguments, maybe a little bit hostile and insulting, but, you know, so what? We're grown people. We can take it. Anyway. So let's do this, maybe a routine we can get into, okay? And we'll do this question thing, because you seem to really like to ask questions, you know, pointed ones, even, you know, and they usually are pretty pointed. Not in a good way, you know, pointed in a way like, prove there's no God, or something stupid like that. But anyway, how can you prove there is no God, or something like that? Anyway, so yeah, I'll start with a question, a hypothetical, thought experiment. Explain to me what the horror would be, is if, let's say, something happened, okay, a virus, all right, and what happened is that every human being now is infertile, and they just passively disintegrate at their 50th birthday. I mean, they just evaporate. They don't feel pain. They don't feel anything. They just fade away into the ether, you know, over say a 2-hour period. And the good side is that everybody enjoys perfect health, you know, perfect functionality, no diarrhea, no inconvenient physical unpleasant sensations whatsoever. I mean, just, yeah, they still get hungry, they still get horny, but they don't have any physical liabilities whatsoever. And the only ones possible are emotional ones, and that's the exchange. That's the game. So the human race will die out over time, and but everything else will be the same as it is now. And explain to me how that would just be so fucking horrible. Explain exactly how everybody would just have to cower in their living rooms and cry, because that would be just so awful. Yeah. Okay. All right. So he talks about the subject of the video is freedom, but he doesn't really talk about freedom, I don't think. But anyway, we'll catch the end of one part of here where he's talking about conference reports video.
They're sort of haggling about the question of diet, and is dietary practice chosen? Is it not? Is it cultural? To what extent do people have?
I think this is just a horrible paraphrase of the conversation. I mean, in none of Fred's videos has he talked about culture or any of that kind of crap having any influence whatsoever on his behavior. The question is whether you make a choice, just like owning slaves 200 years ago. You had a choice to make if you were rich. You had the capacity to buy people and abuse them at your leisure. You could choose to do that, or you could choose not to do that. And it would be inconvenient to do and uncompetitive for you to choose not to, but you did have that choice. And that's what Fred's saying, is we have a choice. Yeah, maybe it's maybe you've been grown up and raised to have an attachment to this meat thing, but yeah, you can give it up for the cause, for the purpose of sparing some animals this brutality. And even as a principle, even if it was completely ineffective in doing that, which it's not, but even if it was, it would just be the principle of the matter. Why step on a bug if you can step over the bug? You know, I mean, obviously you're not going to save, in a world where zillions of bugs are killed every day, you're not going to do much by stepping over one, but it's the principle. Why cause it? If you can prevent it, why cause it? That's the question. It isn't about culture, it isn't about history, it isn't about what stupid humans were doing 30,000 years ago versus what they were doing 1,000,000 years ago or 500,000 years ago. I mean, this whole idea that you people keep phrasing this as if human beings are lions. Okay, human beings are great apes. Alright, most of the time human beings existed, they were eating the diet of a great ape, not a lion.
An actual sense of deliberation and freedom and choice. To what extent do they not? And, you know, even in this too...
Yeah, well, the whole idea of choice is kind of ludicrous, right? Okay, because we are talking about determinism. But the point is it's part of the determinism, okay, is that the memes spiral through something. So if there's an eddy in a stream and I pour a blue liquid into it, it'll slowly spin into the eddy, and eventually all that eddy will be now blue. Alright, that's the way it works. The conversation is part of the determinism. The conversation is part of the inevitability. but it must take place, and the blue must spread through time and exposure and invasion and permutation. Okay, that's the way it works. So it's not a matter of just everybody all of a sudden says, I'm a vegetarian. No, one person says, I'm a vegetarian, explains why, then the next person says, ah, yes, now my brain has been influenced. It has now, the touch of dye is mixing in my neurology, and now the wheels will turn in my head, and now I will see purpose or value in performing that act. And now I will inject blue into other people. And that's just the way it works. It's part of the determinism. We have the illusion that we're making a choice, but the fact is the blue did invade. It invaded in an environment that was conducive to it swirling and taking over, and therefore it did. And the same is true in the brains where it doesn't happen. There's a bit of wax or some other bullshit in their ears, and the blue can't get in.
Gary's ridiculous videos, I mean, he wants me to respond to him. Part of me is just reluctant to do it because
I just want you to respond to the points made in the videos, okay? I mean, I go to the trouble of playing a video and pointing out where I think you're confusing or distorting or perverting a simple question into a complex question, and I always keep imposing upon your commentary this idea that there is physical forces and systems in place here. This is evolution we're talking about, and you keep trying to pull the conversation out of that context.
You know, he's somewhat being ridiculous. I mean, he plays this video where he's going, oh yes, he says that I'm just saying that consciousness is a fact, it's a fact, it's a fact, fact, and that's all I'm doing, and that I'm making this out to be super fantastical or something. And no, I'm
well, look, when you say the rest of the universe doesn't exist unless human beings are around to contemplate it, or self-reflexive organisms are around to somehow look up at the star and say they're stars, that's rather bold talk. Okay, that sounds, you know, three piggish, you know, clocks and mice and all kinds of bullshit. It doesn't sound like the truth to me.
Trying to get at the question of, could consciousness have not been? What are the odds?
Yeah, well, again, I explained all this, and so being redundant really it just plain sucks. I mean, I've pointed it out to you 5 million times. The odds in this particular universe were 1 in 1. That's right, because this universe was dictated by how the dice were rolled. Okay, but when we go back to the old dice getting shooken up, let's say, we could speculate that the universe could quite possibly collapse on itself, time is destroyed, everything is randomized, it blows up again, and it does a whole new deterministic scenario. Or we could say, yes, it was inevitable from the first roll, whatever the first cause was. And the first cause question doesn't bring up any more mystery. It's still just a bunch of recipe that was put together not by an intelligence, not by some uncaused God, all right? It was obviously put together by caused mechanics, and we don't understand. We don't know what the causes are. We don't know what the universe even is. The universe could be a crack in the universe, okay? Matter and energy could be a defect in the actual universe that we can't see. The actual universe is just a big plane of nothing. It's perfect. And we're just a crack or a defect. We're the one in a gazillion times something goes wrong and the universe cracks and you end up with shit in it. Dirty, shitty matter.
That consciousness emerged. It seems like consciousness couldn't have not been, especially those people who want to claim hardline determinism. And it also seems...
Yeah, everything, like I said, this cigarette lighter could not have been. It's true, that's right. It was inevitable. 10 billion, 15 billion years ago, this was inevitable. So what? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about if I swirl up, if I randomize, if I reshake the gazillion-sided gazillion dice, right? I have a gazillion dice in my hand with gazillion sides on them, and I shake them again. What's the odds that when I shake them, this will happen? Well, what we can speculate is the odds are preposterously high against this happening, preposterously high against this happening, Okay, we can't even make a goddamn reproducing cell in a laboratory with all of our technology. In all of the years of human history, of all 4 billion years of evolution on Earth, we can't find another one isolated in a cave somewhere, or at the bottom of the ocean, or on top of a mountain, or even on a fucking asteroid. We can't find another cell that isn't related to the first reproducing cell that happened on planet Earth. I mean, that sort of indicates that this isn't something that just you swirl it up in a bucket and a little living thing starts growing. Okay, we know it doesn't happen easy. So those are the odds. High odds against.
That if you do want to say that consciousness could have not been, the onus is more upon you than the person who says, well, it seems like it couldn't have not been now that it is. Now,
yeah, that's just bull. You're just basically back to the same old crap that somehow I have to prove there's no God. No, what I can prove is that life isn't easy to make. All right, I can prove that. I can prove that it just doesn't happen. You can't just make a reproducing cell. It just doesn't happen easy. I can prove it.
I could be wrong. I'm happy to say thought is incoherent.
Oh, whatever. Now you're back to your disambiguation crap. I could be wrong. I'd love to give you a polygraph test every time you say that kind of stuff. I just love to do it because I don't think you're saying that sincerely. I really don't. I think you're just saying that to be kind of patronizing. I'm just one of you fellas, and I'm just talking out of my ass like the rest of you people. Now, I'm not talking out of my ass. Okay, so you might be talking out of your ass. I'm not talking out of my ass. All right?
I'm not suggesting that I think I'm right. I'm throwing this out to try to observe our own sense of thought, right?
Yeah, our own sense of perspective. And you're trying, in a sense, pretty aggressively, I think, to create some sort of magic and mystery and myth to our existence. You're doing this, whatever his name was, you know, Joseph blah blah blah, and the rest Campbell, and you know, the rest of these guys you're always talking about are all full of this little mythy, you know, semi-religious glabbedygook, you know, that's running their show. It's all their kind of snake oil, and you're always trying to run away from the clear, hard context that we have, which is that everything you're doing, every piece of you, every feature that you have, every bit of your structure is just the tooth, fang, claw bullshit that comes along with being part of evolution. And that's why you have these fucking faculties. It's just because it made you a good little consumer.
I mean, it was more of an experiment by which we're trying to observe thought as we're engaging. And again, just the fact of engaging is what's so interesting. We're trying to persuade one another. We're trying to talk with one another as if in talking with one another we will influence and bear some agency. I mean, it's...
Yeah, we will read our script, and then the next guy reads his script, and the next guy reads his script, and they're all connected scripts, okay? The lines in my script are related to the lines in his script are related to the lines in his script, and we all have to play our part in nudging each other and push, 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 push. I push you, you push me. We push buttons on each other. We fuck each other up. We influence each other. That's right. That's how change has to take place. There has to be that friction, that rubbing up against each other kind of bullshit for there to be something called influence. Yes, we have to influence each other for change to take place within the pool of us's.
It's almost like humans are an animal that is able to domesticate itself through its talk, and to that extent,
you know, again, this is the same stuff you said, and the point is I've already responded to this, so I have to redundantly do it now for the third time. I mean, this whole notion of domestication is bullshit. Just replace that word with civilization. So yes, of course, we have civilized ourselves through time. We learn new facts. We become civilized because we acquire a new fact. Okay, we learned that slaves weren't animals; they were human beings. Okay, we changed our behavior. I mean, it's just an education process. We are just duplicating the logic and the structure and the sensibility of what is the structure of the matter itself. Okay, everything we know is basically just understanding the context of the matter itself. What is it? What is its nature? What does it do? I'll give you like a Hannibal Lecter speech.
it exercises an agency over itself. Okay, talking about 10 miles an hour here. I'm talking about...
Yeah, well, I actually like that about you. You actually do talk fast. You're throwing a lot of way too many words, but at least you talk fast.
inhale, I guess is what they sometimes say. I think different ways to frame some of these questions, and this would be, I'll throw a question out there for Gary, and you can chew on this, Gary. Gary, the video that I want to see from you is the video of what would have been the better world. I mean, you seem to say that this world is crap, this world has a bunch of suffering, shows no evidence of anything like a forethought or anything like a
yeah, well, look, I'll just get to it. You know, obviously you can't build something on a structure like, okay, let's just throw these things, let's throw the gladiators into the arena, all right, and we'll only reproduce the winners. And here are the rules of the gladiator game, okay? Yeah, you can cut somebody's heads off, but you can't kick them in the balls, and blah, 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 right? We make a certain set of rules, like basketball, for example. Well, all of a sudden, the players start getting taller and taller and taller because there's an advantage, okay? So certain advantages are going to be rewarded. Well, obviously, I wouldn't make a system that rewards crap, okay? That just rewards, you know, women who can pop out babies easy or some other circumstance. But we know for human beings it was complex. What led to, look, that's even another issue for you. I mean, the whole North American human population it was related to 4 people, 4 women, 8 women I think it is, that crossed that land bridge. That's it. If those 8 didn't make that land bridge crossing, there wouldn't be human beings on North America. But anyway, that's a whole nother subject. You know, look, yeah, it's the nature of the game. The game is bullshit. It's stupid. So you're saying to me, what kind of competitive arena would you create? Okay, you know, for some sort of stupid, idiotic life and death struggle of you know, who can I defeat so I can have another day of gruel? Yeah, obviously, within that context, it's really hard to come up with something where this is what but I can obviously pick the easy fixes. Okay, obviously evolution doesn't care about our welfare basically after our child rearing age. You know, once you get to a certain age where you're no longer, your children aren't going to be dependent on you hanging around, yeah, we are more susceptible to dying because, yeah, nature obviously doesn't give a fuck about us anymore. So yeah, I'd get rid of those kind of liabilities, get rid of the whole aging process even. Get rid of these vulnerabilities, these stupid diseases and sicknesses and crap. You know, am I allowed to change the structure of the Earth itself? Am I allowed to get rid of tsunamis and other kinds of liabilities? I mean, what exactly? How much control do I have in my creation? I guess I would put the ocean in a swimming pool somewhere. I'd put big cement walls around it so it couldn't get to us.
I don't know, a management of what could be reasonable concerns. I mean, if anything, it all just seems a messy crap and shows no forethought, or if it did, again, I don't know what the right expression to use is there, but it's a mangled, you know, just mangled. The question for you would be, if you, rather than the blind forces of nature, were designing life, what would life look like?
Well, I mean, right now, all the little animals would be robots, okay? You know, they're just for human entertainment. Plastic, whatever, I have to make them out of. But yeah, I wouldn't leave a bunch of little sentient creatures out there to rip each other's skins off. Yeah, I wouldn't have one living thing dependent on cannibalizing another living thing for its existence. That's kind of silly.
That you would have done to have designed life so as to make it so much better than it is now, or even better, like right now when we look out in the world and we see all kinds of people playing sports and busying their time, and again, sports are a big thing, and other ways that people occupy their time. If you had your druthers and you could get your way, everyone, let's just say they jump into a virtual world, what are they doing in this virtual world?
I mean, that's just such an open question. Well, look, number one, I'm just suggesting a virtual world because it does solve the fail-safe problem. What they won't be doing is blowing up planet Earth. What they won't be doing is conducting real wars in the real world, killing real people. That won't be taking place, okay? So right there, that's one win for it. The rest of the wins are really just have to do with the fact that human beings are selfish organisms. We all want to be king, we all want to be the best, we all want to sell the most books, we all, whatever the thing is, we're all after that ego gratification thing, and we are unsatisfiable in our very nature, okay? I mean, everybody, you know, they win the big tournament, and then they show up next year because they got to win it twice. And then to really prove they're great, they got to win it 3 times. And to really prove they're super great, they got to win it 4 times. I mean, we're just never satisfied, and that's the trick of this game, and that sucks. So virtual reality solves that problem because, yes, we can just keep taking and taking and taking. We can have as many bags of potato chips as we want, and it's just not going to matter. We can exploit and take advantage and one night stand the world to pieces, and it wouldn't matter. There's no bleeding of broken hearts because there's no real persons that we're exploiting to gain our satisfaction.
Besides not suffering, besides minimizing the suffering and the hardship and the loss, what exactly are people doing in this virtual world?
Well, name what you would like to do. Every movie script could be played out in a virtual reality. So every movie you really loved, or you could be Ben-Hur, and you could be doing the chariot race. You could just live out any possible experience that has already been shown to you. Any story that could be written, that has been written, you could play out. You could be the 3 bears, you could be Goldilocks, you could be the wolf, you could be anything, Mother Goose, whatever the fuck. You want to be an old lady in a shoe, you could be it. You could be any of that shit, plus anything else that's imaginable from here on. Any more to add it. You could edit every fucking movie. You could take all the stupid parts out. You know, you could do 12 Angry Men over and over and over and just keep changing one of the actors. You know, and you could always be Henry Fonda or whoever you wanted to be. I mean, you could just do anything forever. I mean, come on. You could play any video game forever, changing it subtly for each experience and running through it. And I mean, it's just, what? How the hell do you, I mean, to ask the question as if it's just so obviously, oh, what a dull world that would be. You know what you could do in virtual reality? You could have some stupid thing called YouTube, and you could have incredibly frustrating arguments with, you know, over-linguistic professors who obviously listen to too many people talking too much gobbledygook, and you could just endlessly argue with these fucking idiots, you know, until your brain literally explodes. You could do that in virtual reality if you really had a passion for it. I personally don't think that's the one I would choose. You know, I think I'm somewhere, you know, I don't know, you know, James Tomb Raider, or like Indiana Bond. Yeah. You know, I mean, come on. You know, you could just sit there and live out fantastic experiences. I mean, you know, and no real liabilities. You can think there's a risk of real pain, you can think there's a risk of real harm, and there's never any. You just lose it. Oh, I lost 10% on my energy level. You know, I better watch that because I want to keep playing this round. You know, I mean, it could be that simple. Instead of real pain, you could just have a little meter that just shows that, oops, I'm getting a little glow in the darky, a little too much radiation. I gotta go find me a little health pack. I mean, come on, that would just kick fucking ass compared to this fucking mediocrity. Oh, I'm gonna go head off to the coal mine. Oh, I'm gonna go head off to the, you know, phone center where I spend 8 hours a day randomly calling poor saps and fucking pissing them off. Oh, fuck.
I mean, I would like to hear some of that. Okay.
Yeah, well, I have a whole channel devoted to it, but whatever.
The other issue about free will and determinism that I think I want to get at here, you know, I'm trying to get all this in, you know, as quickly as I can, but is the degree to which some of the problems of free will and determinism have to do with our ability to think and how limited thought itself is. That is, the range of action and the freedom by which we act in the world seems to be a different level than the thought about our freedom.
Yeah, well, I don't really feel that, and I think that's just a whole other context. You know, as somebody, you know, you're not a young guy anymore, but I mean, yeah, you got a few decades under your belt, then you have a few decades of minutes of thought, of information coming in, and it's all still flowing around in there. It's still vibrating. Every interaction is essentially a vibration, an echo, and the echo still echoes. It's still there. It still has had its effect, and all of that creates this mix that can throw all kinds of interesting patterns out. artistically are in the form of our symbolisms and our vocabulary and our sentence structure and our idea structure, because it's all been mixing, it's all been nuanced by all of that exposure. I mean, come on, that's hardly what you would call stiflingly limited. It's incredibly open to creativity in the sense that you have now, it's like putting a blue lighter and put the green lighter behind the blue lighter. Oh, and that's a new color, isn't it? Oh yeah, it is a new color. And I could put a red one in front of that, and I could put a pink one and a green one, and I could have all kinds of nuanced colors that I'm creating by just merely putting one idea or one concept on top of another concept on top of another concept. So yeah, I just no point in saying it's limited. So anyway, I think I got to the part that I needed to get to here. So anyway, so yeah, well, maybe we can do, I'll post this on YouTube, in spite of the fact that I hate YouTube. I guess on the Boom Doom Gloom channel. And, because it's sort of virtual reality, but it really isn't. Yeah, and we'll just exchange an opening question and then an answer to the other guy's question. And see if that goes anywhere. See if we can try to have something called something like-ish, something more constructive-ish in terms of our interaction, so we can understand each other. Because maybe you understand me, but I tell you quite honestly, yeah, I can't tell what the fuck you're saying half the time. Okay? I mean, because it's all metaphor, it's all poetry, and you can do anything with it. You can, if I just paint some squiggly lines, I might know that I'm painting, a frog at sunset. But, if I don't make it a little bit clear, no one else is going to see frog at sunset. They're going to just start making up their own shit. So I'm not trying to make up my own shit. I'm not trying to distort you or pigeonhole you. I'm just saying what you're saying and how you're saying it has a real taint to it. Okay? I mean, it sounds like a used car salesman, and it looks like a used car salesman, and it talks like a used car salesman, well then it's a fucking used car salesman. Alright, enough said.